Greetings, fellow travelers, and welcome to the Way of the Showman, where we view the world through the lens of showmanship. I am Captain Frodo, and I will be your gracious host and guide along the way. And yet again, the world is falling completely off at the hinges. It's a crazy old world. That's all I need to say about that. For some reason, a whole bunch of people downloaded the Clown Truth episode. I thought maybe it had been shared to a clown forum. Who knows? If you know about it, send me a message. But for now, I would like to dive straight into today's topic. It might seem kind of simple, but as we go on, I find it a very powerful tool. It's a tool. It's a tool. Yeah, it's not just a broom. It's a tool. Come on, guys, get together. So, and this is, we're going to talk about responsibility, and I will, when I start doing the actual main content of this here episode, I will call it an obligation, that it is not just something we should do if we've felt like it, but that it actually is our obligation for elevating our art. Because as I think then about the responsibility that we have as performers, how we think about this has bearing on the way that the world is going, and on whether or not our profession or our art and craft has anything to contribute to the continual struggle to make the world a better place, or whether what we do is at the end of the day, is it just trivial and irrelevant, as many people no doubt think when they think of the circus performer standing in a corner doing some juggling or whatever. Of course, I don't have highfalutin notions that what I do in my show or my family shows or school shows will make or break the delicate balance of the world, but I do genuinely believe that what we do and how we do it matters. If nothing else, it should be helping to tip the scales. We do play a vital role for the audience, given us with each audience the time that they give us. In these moments, we choose what to do, and I, for one, care a lot about this and what can be done with this time. And the most important factor of them all is the impact, the connections that we forge in that time, that what they have and what they ultimately can have. All these thoughts that I have here, they are sort of musings of an old man of the circus who has performed regularly from I was about 10 years of age. And I look back and I want all of this to matter. Also, as I mentioned here a little while ago, I've been reaping the compliments as a director of a show in New York City, and we won awards with a show that I directed that was in Perth and in Australia. And simultaneously, I just did a school tour of school show, and a principal of a school that I performed at on a rainy Tuesday morning came up afterwards as I was packing up my gear, and he said in his long career as a principal and teacher, he had just never seen someone being able to connect so deeply with the children, for them to listen and to ask questions. And that, he said, what's also impressive is that it included also those who normally can't sit still and pay attention for 40 minutes or even 5 minutes, something which I, of course, recognize from my meditation practice. If I'm counting down slowly from 10, I usually get to about 8 before I'm thinking about something else. So all of this that I'm talking about is we're given this time, and I want it to matter. I want it to matter beyond just that moment when we are there. And all this that I'm talking about, this meaning making or sense making or responsibility that we have as showfolk, is to me something that in a sense lies beyond the tricks and the routines, not something tacked on the end of a routine, like a sort of Dr. Oz moment, and when we get to the end of the show and okay, what did we learn today? Not I mean, that's also possible, of course, but preferably this stuff is baked into the routines and ideas. It was something that when I was working with Jay Gilligan that we talked about a lot, this yeah, that there would be something going on beyond the tricks. Like, it's what is everything about? Now this, it's so be like a sort of a layer on top of and in addition to the normal needs that a producer or the role that we play as entertainers. This is something which lies beyond the tricks, a responsibility, and it connects up to what Gadamer says about that we spoke about in the last couple of episodes, I think, that it's only art if it stirs or causes some kind of change in the audiences. And I thought, before I start reading and talking and laying out today's main content, I hate that word, content, the main stuff I want to say. Different kinds of like what are the different kinds of responsibility that we have? Because I talk, as I go on to the main part, I will talk about our obligation and whatever, but I was thinking after reading through it that there's more to this. Like, there are, of course, the responsibility of me as a human being to take care of those that we love and those who depend on us. Like, that's always there. I got to make the money to make sure that we can pay rent and all these sort of things. So that's one kind of responsibility to keep in mind. And then there's as performers, it's our responsibility towards our material, to our craft. Like, we got to take craft and take pride in knowing our craft. We got to get it right. People might not notice the difference if you take the easy option or you don't get it right. No one will notice the difference between 4 and 5 balls, or if your routine has many drops or moments. You'll just make it work and go. A drop. What is that? Just something that doesn't go the way that you think it should go, or that you'd hope that it would go. But also importantly, I think in this, that might be true. Oh, you don't know how to do that trick so much. You take 3 attempts to do it, and that you can cover up that or so. But I think it's important to keep in mind that the audience, they won't mind if you get it right, and even more so to be excelling at it. People love to watch things that are done well. A piece of music that's played flawlessly makes the musician invisible. That a storyteller, it doesn't become about storyteller, it doesn't become about the musician and what they are doing. Then all you experience in a flawlessly played piece of music is the music. The music comes to the foreground and the musician disappears, and then in the end, when they finish, you go, oh wow, that was her that played that was incredible. And every time there's a sort of bung note along the way, then you get drawn back to the performer. Of course, there's room for that as well. I'm not saying anything is just the right way or whatever. It's like but people do like things that are done very well, and it's not what you do, it's how you do it. But it still needs to be shining and brilliant and exciting. So yeah, we also have the responsibility of being precise and clear. Like, if we have some ideas that we want to express, then express them clearly, which means that you must know your own intentions, your thoughts and feelings and desires about what you want your act to convey. How will the experience of this be? So what else? We need to be honest in what we're doing. If we want to ever, which I'm going to go and talk a little bit about now, but to talk about something more than what we do, like this thing of like juggling for climate change, which became a shorthand for me and Jay Gilligan. Like, when you are trying to talk about something else whilst you are also doing your craft or your juggling, whatever it is that we're talking about needs to have an emotional honesty. And that's a responsibility, that you don't just like do some juggling and then all of a sudden we're talking about the Holocaust or something like that, and that's not your story to tell. Or it really needs to be connected to you and spring from you and be experienced as authentic. That's like, you need an emotional authenticity, but you also need then an intellectual honesty. Like, can and will the ideas and the thoughts that you want to express, can they be conveyed with your particular skill or choice of material? Can you actually juggle for climate change? I mean, I think you can. It's not easy. If you just sort of do your act and then say that it's about taking care of the elderly or climate change, then that doesn't necessarily cover it. You got to find an authentic way to express it. It's not easy, but I think it's possible. But it's good to keep in mind, like that's the responsibility. The ideas that you talk about needs to be relevant and authentic for you to tell, and also need to be able to find a way to actually connect it to what it is that you do, so that it speaks from the work and not just tacked on top. That it's yeah. Anyway, we're gonna go on about this, and then of course, as I've been doing some more family shows, it's the responsibility to those people who see us, like, and I'm thinking now specifically those kids who come up after the show and are so excited, because I know that some of those performers who in my childhood took the time to actually talk to me, to really see me and all that, they really shaped who I was and who I became and what I, how many people haven't gotten into magic from having seen and experienced a live magician? How many people get bitten by the circus bug by seeing an incredible performance? That's another responsibility. So this is the theme for today: responsibility and obligation. And I probably sort of overlapped a little bit as I rambled on at you here about the different kinds of responsibility that we might see ourselves having. No, if you just get a random booking to come over and do something at lunchtime for someone there, maybe you won't fill all of them, but thinking through all these things and going like, how is this? This is part of that thing we spoke about, was it last time, or when we spoke a little bit about Socrates and about living an examined life? Like, even if it's just partially examined, that's totally fine. But just, we work on our character in our shows. We add depth to it, and we work on it. We go to workshops and whatever, and every now and then we'll just need to take a little bit of time to work on our real life character too, because that's the role we play in the grand circus of life. So, without further ado, let's step into the world of ideas. A showman's obligation, or the performer's obligation. This is a strong language. I like to kind of push it a little bit, that it's not just a responsibility or something that we could do, but I like to think of this as our obligation. And what is this obligation? We've already touched on some of it, but I believe that our obligation as performers, as showfolk, is to leave the audience in one way or another better off after seeing you. They should walk away having had a great time, but also be a little enriched in thought or feeling, or even inspired in their behavior. The idea is, it's really simple, but thought of in the right way, I think it is really powerful. It springs from taking our calling seriously, and it speaks to a desire for striving towards expressing more and connecting deeper in this process. I believe great enjoyment and meaning can be found in this. I mean, both for the audience, of course. If you go into your show wanting to make a difference, as we spoke about with Gadamer last time and already, it's not art, according to Gadamer, unless it causes some change in the dialogue that the viewer has of the artwork. So if we're focusing on that, keeping that in mind, then this is a mutually beneficial project, because we all like to deliver work which is more than just I can squeeze through 2 rackets or I can juggle 3 balls. We who love performance can selfishly, then we can just get on with doing what we do, and in that process we're enriching the lives and experiences of others. If that's what's happening along the way, then this is a win-win situation. As simple as it seems, I think this idea, however one chooses to express it, gives us a higher aim or a higher purpose of performance. Or we see, I start to see a higher purpose in my shows, and it serves as a reminder that even though we, for the most part, are branded lowly entertainers in the art world, we should not let this weigh us down. We should always aim to enrich our audience, not just by making them enjoy themselves, but to include in this entertainment something which aims higher. If one only keeps giving the audience a good time, one has only reached like the first level. The goal, as I see it, is to include more complexity, include more heart, more thought, and with it deeper connection and a more enriching experience. I guess you get this also, like you just put more of yourself into the work. And if it's possible to use our powerful vehicle of circus and entertainment to create loftier and deeper experiences, why wouldn't we? It's not necessarily easy. And as I see it, though, it's also an ethical reminder. It is a reminder to steer away from that old adage that it doesn't matter if they like the show, since we already have their money. To steer us beyond the first level of merely giving the audience a good time, but to also make them feel something deeper, or make them think about something, to make what we do more relevant beyond the immediate moment of fun as it happens. Because as we're going to go on in episode coming up in not too long, as I talk about entertainment, this thing of having fun as you're watching it and the ease of it, this is going to become important. Put a pin in that. To make a positive difference for someone should be the goal. And this is, of course, causing some sort of change in with what Gadamer talks about, that change is necessary for it to be art. It doesn't necessarily have to be positive. I don't have to walk away being all cheery and all that. I mean, there are really complicated and awful things going on in the world, and we can also talk about those. But, thinking of people like Bill Hicks or many comedians now, of course, that are having people laughing whilst you're also being angry about something. In Hannah Gadsby there, it's extraordinary, some of these things that people manage to express whilst you're crying and being angry and laughing all at the same time. So you're going away enriched. Yeah. I'm drifting off the point. But to me, this idea of enriching to make a positive difference, that should just be the goal for me. To me, this idea of enriching on several levels points to an ennobling and overarching objective to always incite me as a me personally, and anyone who chooses to follow this, like that it incites me to aim higher. Like, I think it serves well to make me and anyone taking it seriously to reach further, and as we create, develop and shape the 3 show essentials of character, material and structure, and their human counterparts in feeling, thinking, and our will and behavior, our skills. It forms it all into a perfect trinity. This simple reminder of just leaving people better off, leaving them enriched. This serves to change our relationship to what we do, to how we see ourselves, how we see our audience, and in this it elevates the whole field of showmanship. It's kind of it becomes a bit allegorical because it's so simple you can just dismiss it. But that's what people do with our whole art form. They go, it's just entertainment. It's just some guy in the corner in a colorful outfit juggling or whatever. But as we know, who care and love these art forms, it can be more. It can certainly be more to us. And then we go, how do we impart some of these incredible feelings of connection and of well-being that we can feel when we're pursuing our craft? How do we share that? Because as the Illuminated Showman's Manifesto mentions, we show folk, we steal or are given the crowd's time, and what we do with that time and the attention that they give us in that time, how serious we are about what we return to them, makes all the difference. And I think it's fair to say that what the audience does is a kind of sacrifice. They give you their attention for a certain time, hoping or praying in this sacrifice that when they leave, they will have been rewarded and enriched. To sacrifice time and attention is a sacrifice of what is most precious to us. As the religious world, for the most part, phased out animal and human sacrifices, the nature of their sacrifice that the religious person puts in their religion and in their faith, it became sort of shifted over into time and attention in rituals and ceremonies and contemplations and prayer. And each of these are not just activities that one plow through and get done. For a ritual to be successful, you need to enter into it and be attentive. If not, then the whole activity is pointless. You're not just like plowing through your prayer or your meditation. You're not just sitting there thinking about what you're going to cook and then, oh good, I did my 10 minutes on the pillow, now I'm done. And the religious and our audience's sacrifices, but as they sacrifice their time and attention, it's with that is like the promise that comes with that is that they promise to be present, and with that is this hope that something is going to be given back to them in return. I guess they're not expecting color TVs or Mercedes-Benz, but we're sort of talking of a deeper human experiences, that this is refined into something more sublime. They're sitting in front of us as performers, expecting to get this feeling which you only get when one, in its simplest form, when one person is facing the other way with something carefully crafted and developed and a skill to convey something and create something that is other than the everyday life. And this, to me, this is our obligation and our responsibility, to refine and transform the time and attention that is given to us into a more precious commodity, so that it will have been a rewarding investment on as many levels as possible. Can it be fun, but meaningful too? Can I entertain them in the moment, but also having poetic ideas that transgress the moment into the future? We will look at this in the light of Goethe's Faust in a later episode, round about the time when we talk about art and entertainment. Put a pin in that. And as just a reminder from what the Illuminated Showman's Manifesto says about this, it says, in the warped space of the stage, the showman steals the crowd's time, but like a twisted alchemical Robin Hood, he returns it refined as show time. In the warped space of the stage, the showman steals the crowd's time, but like a twisted alchemical Robin Hood, he returns it refined as show time. I mean, twisted alchemical Robin Hood, what's going on there? You know, alchemy, it's the refining of something from a base metal, from iron into gold. It's this transfiguration or whatever. And Robin Hood was, of course, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. And this is like, are you stealing from yourself and you're giving it to the people? Well, if they are your congregation sitting in front of you and they're sacrificed and they're hoping for something in return, this is the gold that they're hoping for, I think. All right, some poetry idea. Anyway, let me not get too distracted here, because this is ultimately, it can also just, if you're not so interested in the more esoteric kind of views of things, then it could just be looked at as a simple transaction, because the showman's obligation can be stated quite simply as a transaction. In any transaction where something changes hands from one person to another, such as in a business deal, both parties expect something beneficial from the exchange. In any good, honest transaction, both parties should leave satisfied. Although this might be a highly simplified and possibly naive point of view of what a business transaction is, we can understand it not as what happens in most transactions, but what, in an ideal world, we could all proudly agree it should be. Perhaps in our sort of dog-eat-dog world, the true goal of most merchants is to get as much as possible, as absolutely possible, from the transaction at the cost of whomever they are dealing with. And this is an attitude encapsulated well in that well-worn old showbiz line that I rail against in this at the moment, like, it doesn't matter if you like the show, we already got your money. An illuminated showman, an illuminated performer, following the way of the showman, aims higher than that. For the illuminated showman, any transaction is held up to the best practices standard of wanting both parties to not just be satisfied, but to be enriched and in a better place after the transaction has ended. With this in mind, a show can be seen as an investment. The crowd's investment is the time and attention they expend watching the showman. And the money, I guess, they pay, but they take a chance in trusting the showman, the performer. One could even say that the odds are stacked against them. After all, it is no secret that a substantial amount of the encounters an audience member has with performers are less than satisfying. They risk that their time and attention will be wasted. As all investors, they are hoping for a positive return on their investment. It's our obligation to make sure this happens, or at least to have put all our efforts into making make this happen. So this, if we go on with that business idea, then we could look at like an illuminated entertainment contract, that when the audience buys tickets or in any encounter with a performer, the two parties are in a sense signing a contract with each other. This kind of entertainment contract is only valid when both parties enter into it voluntarily. In a contract, an illuminated performer, an illuminated showman, promises to provide a positive return on their investment of time and attention. The time given to the showman must be returned back to the audience refined, enriched, and improved. Ordinary time is transformed into show time, which is a very particular kind of time where the future and past disappears, where all that matters and all that is experienced is the presently unfolding moment. When completely absorbed, the audience is pulled from their normal state of mind to a state where the endless demands of everyday life ceases to matter. They can enter into a realm more fantastic, more poetic, and more impressive than everyday life, into a world of the sublime, and I believe this to be a universally pleasurable state for human beings. For a duration, the audience loses their self-consciousness. They forget about how they look like to others, and they forget that they are individuals. They display their emotions, large mouths full open, and they exhibit moments where they sort of freeze in gestures half made, like a hand covering their mouth for extended periods of time, or hands frozen mid-clap with just sitting, oh, is he going to be able to do it? Is she going to be able to do the last hula hoop? It is a liberating feeling which has the potential to be deeply cathartic. The whole thing has an improvisational and playful attitude which all combines to invite and draw you into it. At its best, you are left with a powerful feeling that you wanted it to continue after it ended. I never wanted it to end is a good compliment for a performer at the end of the show. If the performance contract is honored to perfection, the show will be this kind of all-consuming for the crowd, giving a complete immersion in the moment. Like a twisted Robin Hood, the showman returns the time and attention back to the audience, positively transformed. This is the yield on the crowd's investment. Through this absorption in shared moments, changes in perception or points of view or new thoughts and perspectives become possible. Here's where it turns into art, according to Gadamer. And the novelty act can facilitate novelty into the audience's life beyond this shared moment of duration that we have together in a show, which we later on will tie up to play, and playfulness will become a really big part as we come to the conclusion of this here momentous second season of The Way of the Showman. And our aim, as I see it, is always to expand the conversation that the audience has with themselves and the conversation that they have with the world. What a standard it would be if a showman provided the audience with an emotionally engaging, intense time and exposed them to ideas that they hadn't had before, kindled question formation in them, and that all this was presented in a way which allowed them to connect with you deeply in the moment, to the point that time disappeared, and that afterwards they had a newfound, altered connection to the world and themselves. If they go away ticking all of those boxes on the feedback sheets of life, then you have done your job exemplary and to its full extent, and can, with your hand on your heart, call yourself an illuminated master performer, an illuminated master showman. As impossible as that standard might be, when you arrive late for a gig at a Christmas party and things aren't going your way, to have that this ideal woven into your work, so that at least in potential, like seeds thrown out during the performance, it is to be found in the work for those who are open to it in the audience. Then you are at a strong position as a performer. If all this is accomplished, the showman will make a small contribution to make the world a better place, which again makes us useful in the world. And this leads me on to this idea that the model makes the difference. The model that we choose to use to understand something determines what we find. We can never grasp the full extent of reality of whatever it is. This is a fundamental idea that I have really come to believe in the last year or so, like just the depth of it. I'm not going to go on about it now. But if we see our tasks as performers as just giving people a good time, just making them laugh at jokes about airplane food and struggles with mother-in-laws or yellow plastic wig shopping centre clowns, then that model shapes a certain role and a certain way for us to understand ourselves and the world and the relations between these. But if we see ourselves as craftspeople, taking their task of bettering human existence on all levels, if we take that in and that count in that model, whatever modest expression each show or project can muster, but that's what we have in mind, and this model shapes us in an entirely different way. And this, to me, is the core underlying the whole edifice of The Way of the Showman. We are more than mere entertainment. We're not just entertainment. We are entertainment, but there is something more going on, or at least we can be, and it can be, if we choose a grander model to shape ourselves to in the world. If we choose a different mode, a different way of paying attention to what we do and what we present, then it changes the whole experience of what that Christmas party, where reality impinges on your ability to deliver your best. It changes it into a better, it enriches it, and there we go, back on the track of reaping the benefits ourselves as well, because we know that the seeds were in there. So yeah, it starts out so simple, just one little idea that you will leave them better off after seeing you in all the different ways that this could be. To me, it's a powerful idea, and it helps me. I might be lying in the gutter, as Oscar Wilde said, but at least we are looking towards the stars, and in that way we can show other people by pointing up as well. Look, there's something more. There's something more out there. Yep, there we come to the end of one more important and deep journey along the way of the showman. It's been a pleasure walking along with you, and yeah, we're doing some housekeeping at the end. I would love this to grow, as you know. I would love these ideas to reach more people, so please, if you could take a little bit of time out of your day, tell someone about the podcast. Another way to do that is, of course, if you could write us a review on iTunes or anywhere you get your podcasts. iTunes is the most important, I think, actually. Spotify too, though. So if you could do that, that would be brilliant. As always, I am Captain Frodo. You can find me on social media as Captain Frodo or Frodo Santini. If you want to support the podcast financially, you can do that by buying me a digital coffee over at buymeacoffee.com/CaptainFrodo. It's been a pleasure walking along with you, and that's all I have to say for now. I'll be back later on, and until then I'll say take care of yourself, those you love, and I hope to see you along the way.